Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the webinar where we're going to be talking about what's life like outside of studying here at the University of Reading. Just to introduce ourselves, my name is Ajmal Kulkhanova, and I'm the one on the far right, and I am one of the regional managers within the global recruitment and admissions team. And I'm joined here by Daisy O'Connor and Lucia Martin, and I will let them to introduce themselves.
So I'm Daisy O'Connor. I'm the Activities Officer at Reading University Students' Union, which is called RUSU.
And I'm Lucia Martin. I'm a student ambassador in my second year doing psychology and neuroscience, and I'm the president of the Student Radio Junction 11.
Oh, that's great. Thanks, Daisy and Lucia. So just before we start the webinar, if you're interested in asking any questions, there's some instructions on your screen. So if you have joined the webinar using your PC, then you should have a tab on the right-hand side of your screen, which you can expand to ask questions. If you're listening to the webinar from your phone, you should have the option to raise your hand, after which you can then submit your question. Feel free to submit your questions throughout the webinar, and when we will get to the end of the webinar, we'll answer your questions. So without a further ado, I'm going to hand over to Daisy to start the webinar.
So in this webinar, we're going to talk about what life is like outside of studying at Reading. So obviously the main reason you come to university for your degree, that there's so much else that you can do while you're here and so many other opportunities that you can experience. So me and Lucia are going to introduce ourselves and talk about what we like to do outside of our studies. And then I'm going to talk about what Reading's like as a place, like Reading Town. I'm going to talk about the sports and societies that you can get involved with here, and the volunteering and work that lots of students do alongside their studies. We'll then talk about the events that happen on campus and in the community, and about the support that's available for you in your studies, but also outside of your studies too. Sorry, we're just trying to get the slide up to the next one. So this is me in the middle. My name's Daisy, and this is some of the stuff that I like to do outside of my studies. So I'm from Birmingham originally. I like to go back there sometimes at the weekend. I play cricket, so I started the Women's Cricket Society here, and I love to do that at the weekend. I'm a football fan, I support Liverpool, I love to read, so I like having the library on campus, and I'm part of the LGBT community, so I love going to events like Pride.
And I'm Lucia. As I mentioned, I'm in second year doing psychology and neuroscience. For my A-levels, I did geography, drama and psychology. I have a couple of roles within the university. I am a halls JCR, which means I look after the halls of residence in my hall from last year. I'm president of the University Radio Junction 11, as I mentioned earlier, and I'm also the social secretary of the Psychology Society. I work at Lola Lowe's, which is a club in town, and I also have a job on campus, which is being a student ambassador, where I get to show people around on open days, do like visit days with school students, and do events like this. And all the pay is very good, which we will come on to later on in this webinar.
So I'm from RUSU, which you might not know is a students' union. So every university has a students' union. It's a charitable organisation which is led by students. So that's why myself and the 4 other officers are in charge this year, having been students last year. It's independent from the university. So although we're on the same campus, we function independently and we can work with them. Our main focus is students and their experience, and we're right in the middle of campus, so it's a really convenient place. We're going to talk about what RUSU does and what other places do, but it's a really good place to know outside of your studies.
And if you want to know any more in-depth information, everything is covered on our website, rusu.co.uk. You can find out more information about all our full-time officers, such as Daisy, find out all their contact details, look at different stuff to do with societies, everything we will come on to about your union and your university. Go and have a play on the page.
So we're now going to talk about what Reading's like as a place, because when you go to university, you do have to live in that place for 3 or 4 years. So it's important that it's somewhere that you really like. So honestly, a massive thing about Reading is the university campuses. So there's 2 in Reading, the White Knights campus and London Road campus, which is where we're recording this. They've won several awards for their green environment. They've won the Green Flag Award, and they are genuinely places that people in the community love to come.
Oh, and about the town centre, there is a large shopping centre called the Oracle, which has many different food outlets and shops. There's a cinema, such as View. There's many green spaces, such as Palmer Park. You can do things like bowling and also even escape rooms. There's lots to do in the town centre, which is only 10 minutes away by the bus, which is very regular. It runs 24/7 from campus, and so do the ones off campus. So there's always ways of easily and cheaply getting into town.
Reading's fantastic for transport. So as Lucia mentioned, you can get the bus around really easily. You can also cycle really easily. And it's also a fantastic place to access other parts of the UK if you want to experience this part of the country. So top left, we have Henley. Henley's famous for its boat races every year. It's a beautiful place, and it's really like traditional British countryside. So it's really lovely to go down and watch some of the boat races. Bottom left, we have London, which I'm sure you all know about. Obviously a cultural centre of the UK, and it's fantastic to go into London on a weekend or even after your lectures and explore what's going on. There's events there constantly, so it's really fantastic place to live near as a student. It's only 21 minutes on the train, but rent isn't expensive here as it is in London, so you get the best of both worlds. Top right, you have Bournemouth, which is a really kind of traditional English seaside. So you've got the candy floss and the fairground rides, and it's as close to a kind of white sandy beach as you'd get in the UK. And that's our closest seaside. So that's somewhere that students do like to go in the summer. And finally, we have Oxford. Obviously, there's the really historic university there, but there's also tons of museums and art galleries. That's only 15 minutes away on the train, so that's somewhere that's really good to access from Reading. So I'm now going to talk about sports and societies, which is honestly probably the biggest part of students' life outside of their studying while they're at Reading for most students. This is also my favourite part of the presentation, because looking after sports and societies is my job. So we have 56 sports teams run through RUSU. They're pretty much 50-50 between men's teams and women's teams. There's something for everyone. They compete every Wednesday in something called BUCS. So BUCS is the British Universities and College sport. So they play other universities all around the country at varying degrees. We have some of our sports teams that compete at a very high level against some of the best universities in the country at that sport. We also have varsity every year. So varsity is a massive event. It's the biggest sporting event of the year, where all of the Reading teams play all of the teams from Oxford Brookes University just down the road. We actually lost last year, which was really sad, but this year it's at Reading, and fingers crossed we get the home advantage. If you want to get involved in sport, but you're not sure about the super competitive part of it, there is Campus Netball League and 2 campus football leagues to get involved in. So there, if you really want to play with your friends and just have a laugh and get the physical exercise without the super competitive nature. There's also a gym on campus, which students get relatively cheap membership for, and you can just work out there on your own or as a group of friends if you like. I also introduced the buddy scheme this year, which I'm hoping to introduce again because it went really well, where if students wanted to try a sport but they'd not done it before, or they weren't sure if they would fit in, they could go with a friend and they could both go and try it out together. So we're really big on participation in sport here. So even if you're not sure about it, we encourage every student to give it a go.
Also, there are a lot of different societies and media outlets on campus. We have over 130 societies, such as academic and career, so like your school and your courses society, which also, if you join, looks good on your CV when you present yourself to future employers. It looks like you went above and beyond what you did on your course. There's arts and dance, hobbies and interests. With the media outlets, there are lots of different ones, such as there's a TV station, a newspaper and a radio, which obviously I'm head of. so I will vouch for. There's lots on offer here to study and to get involved with outside studying in societies, and there will always be something that you will want to get involved in. However, if there's something you do want to get involved in, Daisy can tell you how to set up your own society.
Yeah, so if there is something that you can't find, it's really easy and to set up your own society. And so often we have students coming to set up their own. We get 4 or 5 new ones every year. There's a society for almost everything you can think of under the sun, and it's a really fantastic way to make friends because you can hang out with people who you know have something in common with you. For lots of people, the sport they do or the society they do really is their life outside of studying. And it's a fantastic way, as Lucia said, to add stuff to your CV, but also just to have fun and hang out with like-minded people. So we're now going to talk about volunteering and work. So lots of students choose to work alongside their studies to earn some money. But aside from earning money, it can offer you invaluable experience and can also be where you meet friends. Volunteering is another way to get fantastic experience and also to help the community in Reading and across the world. So we're now going to talk about that a bit more. So we have more than 20 volunteering groups on campus. So some of them work just on campus. So bottom right, you can see a photo of our environment conservation group who do kind of lake cleanups and campus cleanups just in the local area. But then you have groups that work in the communities. So the University of Munster's are university students who go into local primary schools and help the kids there, show them what university is like. And then we have groups that work all around the country and even all around the world. So we've got our student garden, we've got RAG, who do, RAG stands for Raising and Giving, and they're our biggest student volunteering group. And they do fundraising for charities all around the world. There's lots of opportunities to get involved. Volunteering groups always want as many members as they can get. So even if you're not sure what you want to do outside of your studies, a volunteering group is a fantastic place to start.
There's so much to get involved with volunteering wise as well, because since my first year, and we're only halfway into second year now, I've been a STAR mentor, which means you help students when they're just getting into university. So you can meet up with them, have a coffee with them, discuss uni, give them a campus tour, be their port of contact over email and be like a friendly face that they're always able to contact or meet up with on campus. As I mentioned before, I'm a JCR for the halls of residence, which means that I work with the committee to put on hall events so you can integrate with people in your hall. And we put on events such as we went to Thorpe Park last week. We're planning a Christmas formal on campus. Then we're going to go to the student union afterwards to like dance the night away. It will be a lovely night, and it's a good way to get to know people you're living with, who you live with for however many years you decide to stay on campus. I've also been a course rep for the past 2 years, which means people on my course come to me with positive or negative things they'd like to change about the course, and I take this to the staff and they can work on that feedback, and 9 times out of 10 that this really helps to improve the course for everybody, as the staff have a good way of listening to the students' feedback about what they like or dislike about the course. So there's many different ways to get involved in volunteering, and it's quite easy to balance more than one thing at a time, which again looks brilliant on your CV.
Yeah, so something that Lucia just mentioned that's really important is that it's up to you how you spend your time. So obviously you have a certain amount of hours a week that will be required for your course, but other than that, it's up to you. So you could put your heart and soul into one sport if you wanted to, or like Lucia, you could do lots of different things and have a couple of hours a week in lots of different volunteering and work opportunities. If you really want to put your heart and soul into your course and you only want to spare a couple of hours a week for something else, that's fine too. So one of the pictures on here is the Student Eats Garden, and some of those students go down for half an hour a week and it benefits them fantastically, but they don't have to sacrifice what's important to them. So everyone involved in all of these groups is a student most of the time, so everyone understands, and they're run by students as well, so everyone understands the different commitments that everyone has, and it's totally up to you how much of your time you dedicate to any of these things.
Okay, and there's work in campus. You can either get jobs on campus or off campus. one thing that's very competitive about this university is it's really easy to get a job here as a student. It's the only university in this town, so all the jobs are available for us to get as students. Importantly, there are a lot of jobs on campus, such as being a student ambassador, working in the university bars, working in the nurseries on campus. There's so many different ways of getting involved with work on campus, and the rates of pay is very competitive. However, if you do prefer and you have a job at home which you can transfer to an outlet at Reading, you can get a job outside in the town. I mentioned I work at Lola Lowe's, which is a club in town. I know a lot of people that work for shop outlets and retail and things like that. They work off campus as well, but the availability is insane for a lot of jobs off campus and on campus as well. So you'll always be able to earn a bit of extra money alongside your studies.
Yeah, as Lucia says, it's really easy to get a job as a student in Reading. And again, like I just said, it's really easy to balance it with your studies. If you work on campus, they actually have a limit, and there's a number of hours a week that you're not allowed to do more than that, because they really value your life as a student. So all of this stuff is really easy to balance with your studies as well. So we're now going to talk about some of the events that happen around Reading. So I'm going to talk about events that happen in RUSU, and Lucia is going to talk about events that happen around the town and in the community. So RUSU has its most popular event is every Wednesday and Saturday. It has a union night, which is just a typical nightclub night, but that is just a tiny proportion of what we do and what students enjoy. So top left, we have our retro games night. That's really popular. So every Monday, the pool tables are all free and people can come in and have a really relaxed night playing things like a Nintendo 64 and a PlayStation 1 and stuff like that. Bottom left, we have Plur, which is our kind of dance electronic music night. Our last one was on Halloween, so that's people who really like kind of drum and bass electronic music and dancing the night away. The big kind of festival looking one is our summer ball. That's our biggest event of the year. So every summer we have 5,000 students come for a huge party until 6 in the morning. You don't have to stay that long. I have never stayed that long. And we have massive acts like Sigala, Sigma, Ella Air, everything. And they come, and it's really like a festival in one day. At the bottom in the middle, we have the Mocktail Lounge. So this is something that's got way more popular in the last couple of years, as we have more students that don't drink and more students that are aware of the effects of alcohol and choose not to drink, and even more students who are under 18. So it's some of our most popular events these days are the mocktail lounges, and the downstairs of the union opens up to have kind of all different mocktails and non-alcoholic drinks that you can enjoy. At the top in the middle, for Black History Month, we had a film screening of Hidden Figures. So we have lots of cultural events all throughout the year. We have a culture show, we have events to celebrate things like Black History Month and Disability History Month. And as well as that, we have film screenings all throughout the year. So our most recent one was Shrek 2, and 200 people came to watch it. So if that floats your boat, then there's something for everyone. At the bottom, you've got quiz and karaoke. That's pretty self-explanatory. So we have a quiz where you and your friends can answer questions in teams, and we have a karaoke where you can show off and sing the night away and show your friends that you're better at singing than them. And that happens every Thursday, and that's really popular as well. Top right, so this is a drag queen called Trinity Taylor. We have drag shows quite a lot at the union as part of our LGBT events, which are called Glitter Bomb. So we have performers, not just drag queens, but performers of all types, like singers and DJs come and have diverse events all throughout the year for you to enjoy. And then finally, we have Jazz and Juice. So that's a bit more chilled out, and that's something that's really popular with our postgraduate and mature students. So you can listen to our student musicians with some jazz and with some chilled out music and some drinks of alcoholic or non-alcoholic. It's up to you, and that's really popular too.
As far as events goes outside the university and the community, there are lots to get involved in with all different types of interests, really. For starters, there's Reading Festival, which is a big event in Reading, which many of the students attend. And also there is an opportunity for student ambassadors to work there, taking backstage photos, which is a really big opportunity, and it drives a lot of the student ambassadors to compete for the job. There's also a very big Reading Pride, which is a big event promoting diversity and inclusion, and lots of the students get involved, regardless whether you class yourself as part of the community or not. The BBC and Radio 4 often take a big interest in the university, and they like coming to Reading, such as the bottom left picture. As you can see, this was Any Questions that happened 2 weeks ago from BBC Radio 4. That was an interesting event. On the bottom right, you can see the food markets that happen on campus, and then they're all international foods. There's all different types from all different cultures. These also happen off campus as well in places like Henley, so you can go and experience different types of food off campus. And yeah, there's a lot of events that happen within the community, and there's public lectures. For example, you can see Stephen Fry up there. There's lots of things you can get involved with within the community that's not always involved in Reading, so you can involve yourself in the Reading community.
Fab. So I'm now going to talk a bit about the support that we have for students available on campus, because obviously when you come to university, sometimes, most of the time, it's your first time living away from home, and that can be quite intimidating. And I just wanted to make it clear that as well as all the support that you get kind of with your studies, you also get support outside of your studies and just in your personal life as well. So in the university, we have the welfare team. So this can help support you with kind of low-level mental health problems, such as loneliness or struggling to make friends, which, although they don't require professional help, would really benefit from support, because they do affect your life in a big way sometimes. So we have the university counselling service. So that's for people that need more structured and medical help sometimes, and that's really useful to some students. We then have the Russo Advice Service. So this is within the Students' Union. So this is completely independent from the uni. So if you ever have problems with the university, such as you're not happy with the grades you've been given, you can come to our advisors. They can help you with academic side of things, like I just mentioned, your grades, resitting exams if you have to. Then there's money advisors. They can help you with your student loan if you're confused about your grants and student finance and stuff like that. And they can also help you with housing. So when you move out of halls, if you choose to, and you're confused about housing contracts, they can help you with stuff like that as well. The fourth thing is a GP surgery. So linked with the university is a university health centre. It's a proper registered NHS GP surgery that has really close links with the university, particularly the counselling service, and they're rated outstanding. So they are, it's literally on the edge of campus, so it's very useful for students. Next, we have online support. So obviously you might not be on campus all of the time, and you might want help outside of kind of 9 to 5. So you can access what's called the Big White Wall, which is an online counselling service. So we try and support students outside of just working hours. Next, we have the chaplaincy. So as well as the social side and the faith side, lots of people find support in chaplaincy and in their faith. So there's two main chaplaincy centres on campus. There's the Muslim Centre and the Christian chaplaincy. And both of these have a chaplain employed to support people with their faith in there. They also hold events for people of all faiths and none. So they have guided walks, they have prayers, they have community events. So that is actually somewhere where a lot of students can find support. Aside from those two main ones, as Lucia mentioned earlier, there are a lot of culture and faith societies. So those ones tend to work with the community. There's lots of gurdwaras and temples in the community, and lots of people find support and find their friends outside of their studying through their faith. Next, we have the Disability Advice Service. So this helps students with any disability or long-term health condition that affects their studies. So this can be physical disabilities, but it can also be learning difficulties, problems like dyslexia, and any mental health problems too. So they're specially trained advisors that can help any students in that situation with funding and with support for their studies and with their life in general. Next, we have Life Tools. So the Careers Centre run workshops on things to kind of help you adjust to living on your own. So things like on procrastination and on sleep and on kind of meditation and things that can support you just to become more independent as a person growing up outside of your parents and outside of the life that you've been used to. Next, we have security. So the campus security can help your physical safety. So if you're ever on campus alone, you can ring them and they can kind of watch you on CCTV and make sure you get home safe. They're also always at our events to help look after people and make sure that no one's left in a vulnerable situation. Next, we have hall wardens. So as Lucia mentioned earlier, she's a JCR. So JCR, it stands for Junior Common Room, but it's students that support the hall wardens and support the students in halls. So if you do live in halls, they're students, the JCRs, to help look after you and run events and make sure that you know where to go and stuff. And there's also the hall warden. So the hall warden isn't a student, and they're just a member of university staff that lives in the hall and can help you access all of these other services. And finally, we have representation and campaigns. So as Lucia is a course rep, so she represents a specific course at uni, but there's also representatives for lots of minority and liberation groups. So we have a women's rep, we have a disabled students rep, we have a transgender rep, an international students rep, a BAME rep, etc. So those students can help with specific problems and specific issues in those communities and help bring those to RUSU and make genuine change on campus. They lead to things like campaigns where if there is something you're not happy about in a specific group of students, that thing can change. And both RUSU and the university listen to students and help students to make change if there is some kind of support that they feel like they're not getting. So I've talked a lot about this. The point of this is just to make it clear to you that there is a lot of support for you outside of your studies, and the university does invest in things to look after you as a person, not just as someone on your course. So we've given you a lot of information, and if you want to know any more about it, or you can access our website, which is www.rusu.co.uk. So that's for things I talked about, like the sport societies, volunteering, and some of the support, that stuff that's independent from the uni. And we also want you to stay in touch and just see what the Students' Union is getting up to. So you can go to, if you search RUSU on Facebook or Reading University Students' Union on Facebook, and go to our Instagram, RUSU Photos. So you can just have a look at what kind of things us and our students get up to.
And just to add, here's also the website of the main University of Reading, as well as the Facebook and Instagram accounts for the University of Reading International Office. So please do stay in touch, follow us, and I hope you found the presentation very useful, as we have now come to the end of the presentation. Thank you, Daisy and Lucia. It was really interesting to learn about RUSU and the various activities and the existing opportunities for work and volunteering at RUSU. Now, we've received a few questions, and we will try among ourselves to answer to as many of them as possible. So the first question has come from, just go back, sorry. No. Just so we have that. Okay, so the first question is, we actually received quite a lot of questions. From Joseph, are foreign students allowed to participate in campus politics society? So Daisy, can you answer for this?
Yes, the short answer is yes, 100%. So any student of the university is automatically a member of RUSU and is automatically eligible to become a member of any of our societies. So we have about 10 politics societies. Some of them are for specific kind of UK parties in politics, but some of them are just people who are just interested in politics generally. And we have some societies who are interested in international politics. So whether it's UK or international politics that you're interested in, you are 100% encouraged to participate as an international student.
Oh, very good, very good. We've got another question. What happens with the students that are below 18? Are they allowed to join the societies? And if yes, which ones? And if no, which ones they're not allowed to?
So again, as a student, even if you're under 18, you're eligible to join any of our societies. So we make it a requirement that every society holds events throughout the year that don't involve alcohol. So for many reasons, including making them accessible to under 18s, there's been a bigger push for this recently as there's more and more young students and students that don't drink. So I would hope that every single society is accessible to you as an under 18.
Thank you. We've got really interesting question here about the weather. It's from Asel, and she's asking, hello, I would like some information about the weather of Reading and what we should bring to wear in winter and summer. I like that question.
Many layers. Bring many layers. I've also found it's very windy. I come from further up north of the UK, and it seems quite windy down here, so there's a bit of a chill, but just bring jumpers and jackets. I'm not quite sure where you're from, but I am walking around at this time of year with a scarf the size of a blanket and a big fluffy coat on. And it's only brief walks between lectures, and everywhere inside is warm. But yeah, make sure you have layers on.
I would also say to not worry. If you get here and you think, I have not bought the wrong clothes, you can go and buy stuff for pretty cheap in the town centre. So don't worry too much if you get here and you realise that you're really cold. You can go and buy some more stuff. It will be okay.
Oh, thank you. We've got another question from Samantha. She's asking, so she's going to be a postgraduate student. Is it easy for postgraduate students to socialize and integrate?
Yeah, so obviously postgraduate students have kind of a different lifestyle to undergraduate students usually because their course kind of requires different things. There's a postgraduate society, so that's specifically for postgrad students to socialise at times and in places that suit them. But postgrads can also go to any of the other societies, and lots of the groups we have that I'm involved with have plenty of postgrad members. We're having more and more events kind of outside of normal 9 to 5 hours because for some postgrads, the later times are more accessible to them. We also have, I talked about representatives. We have 2 representatives in RUSU for postgrads, and they come to us and bring specific queries and problems that postgrads have. So if there is ever anything that's kind of a problem for postgrads and something that they can't really access, then we try and change that because our postgrad students are just as important to us as any other student.
Thank you. Another question, and this is from Hannah. Is there a drama society or a theatre which the students can get involved in?
There is a really large society called Reading University Drama Society, or everyone shortens it to RUDS. They put on lots of events all year. I was part of it in my first year. For example, they do mini plays that are put on that involve smaller groups of people that are performed all over campus. Then they have a big spring musical or a big straight play. And they also, at the end of the year, have this really fun event for charity called a 24-hour musical. Basically, this means that a whole play is directed, written, whatever. It was High School Musical 2 last year. It's directed and acted and rehearsed all in 24 hours, and it's put on at the end of the 24 hours. So it's not at all stressful. It's actually really fun. It's a really good way of getting involved. So that drama society is a really good way of getting involved, and a lot of the plays are put on in our film and TV studio called Minghella. So that's a lot of where rehearsals are as well. So I would really recommend that society.
Thank you. A question from Kenyan. Is there readily available student transport?
Yeah, so the bus network in Reading is really good, as I mentioned, and there's a couple of bus stops on campus. So the bus takes you from campus into town if that's where you're trying to go, and you get cheaper tickets as a student. So you get about £1 off on all of your tickets if you're a student. You don't have to show student ID or anything. You just say you're a student and it's cheaper. Same with the trains. You can get a card if you're a student, which gives you a third off ticket prices. So yeah, there is.
Thank you. We've got a question from a prospective PhD student. The question is, do you have daycare for those that have kids in preschool age? I intend to do a PhD and my son is 3 years old.
So yes, we have a nursery on campus. It's run by the Students' Union, and it's staffed by, trained professionals. We have about 100 little kids running around there at different times. It's for students and staff, and there's and it's for age from, I think, 3 months to 4 years. So it sounds like your kid would be perfect for that nursery, and they're very flexible because they know that students have quite different timetables to lots of people working, and the rates are also very competitive compared to other nurseries in the community.
Thank you, Daisy. Thank you for all the questions. We've got quite a lot of questions. We'll try to answer maybe 1 or 2 more, and we will respond individually to those questions that we didn't get a chance to answer as part of the webinar. I hope that's okay, but we will answer to all of your questions via email. So we've got another question, and this one is from Robert. How is accommodation like for international students?
So there's a lot of different accommodation on campus that people can pick, and some tend to be more popular than others with international students. So we have some accommodation that's catered, where you have a card and you go and pick up your food from campus outlets, and then there's some that are self-catered where you cook for yourself, and all of these are equally accessible to international students. There's not a specific hall for international students, but lots of international students tend to prefer the catered. Maybe it's quite intimidating to kind of cook as well as get used to a new country, but that's just a preference. International students can access any of the accommodation that they want. It depends where you're from and what kind of accommodation you're used to living in, but it tends to be international students actually sometimes stay in halls for all 3 years because it's a bit more familiar. So yeah, international students tend to enjoy halls, and there's lots of different options available for them.
Thanks, Daisy. There's a question about scholarships for international students, and I probably will answer to this question. So this came from Gurleen. Does the university provide scholarships for international students? University of Reading does have a really good scholarships package for international students. You will be able to find all the information in our scholarships page, which I'm happy to forward it to you to share the details. Basically, there are a lot of scholarships available for postgraduate level, and there are also quite a good number of scholarships available for PhD postgraduate research programs. Some of the scholarships have some deadlines. You're probably aware of Chevening, for example. Chevening scholarships deadline have recently passed. However, there are many other external and internal scholarships that still have the deadline is not yet approaching. So you're more than welcome to explore them, to apply. Some scholarships are for specific subjects. Some scholarships are, they can be broad, general scholarships. So we will provide you with the link to the scholarships page. So probably just one more question before we will wrap our webinar. All in all, what is the nightlife like in Reading? Popular and well attended?
So I'll start. The Union is the biggest club in Reading. So we have our nightlife, like our proper, as you'd expect a night out to be on Wednesday and Saturday. And the venue capacity is 2,500. So that tends to be the most popular night from students. But there's also a lot of nightlife in town, which Lucia can mention now.
Yeah, I've worked at 2 clubs so far within Reading, and there's probably about, I'm going to say, like 4 major clubs within Reading. The biggest one being, there's another one just further down from the capacity of Union called Q Club. There's lots of other ones. They're all different kind of music vibes. So there's always be something you're interested in. There's also a lot of bars. I know a lot of the international students like to go to Revolution de Cuba, which is like a very international, like fiesta style bar. There's also typical chains like Revolution, Lola Low, things like that. There's always places to find that do student drink deals, and the nightlife is buzzing in Reading, so you will always find something of your interest.
Yeah, I think when I went to an open day, when I was in your guys' position, I remember thinking, oh, London's so close, we can go out in London all the time. But no one goes out in London because the nightlife in Reading is good enough. So I think that says quite a lot, to be honest.
I know I mentioned that that would be the last question, but we've got a really good question, and I think quite a lot of students would benefit from hearing the answer to this. So this question is from a prospective student from Nigeria. I'm coming in for a master's degree from Nigeria. I'm really concerned about the food. Can you tell us a little bit about the various foods that are available in Reading?
So if you're a catered student, you can buy your food on campus. The current diversity officer at RUSU, Zaid, it's on his manifesto to diversify food around campus, because there is lots of food that's really popular with international students, but he wants to make it even more diverse. There's about 12 different places on campus that you can use your catered card to buy food, so you always have a lot of choice. But if you don't think that there'll be something on campus that you will love to eat, then you can always live in self-catered accommodation and cook for yourself. And there's plenty of international supermarkets all around Reading. So lots of students choose to cook for themselves, buy the ingredients that they're familiar with, and cook stuff that they really love. But yeah, I'm sure it'll be fine. It's just up to you whether you want to eat what the university provides, which might well be absolutely fine for you, or cook what you really love and what reminds you of what you love. So yeah.
Okay, and maybe one final question, as really good questions are coming up. This came from Miriam. How can postgraduate students manage their time so that extracurricular activities will not negatively affect their studies? I think this is a really good question.
Yeah, I think that's a fantastic question. It is something that students sometimes worry about. It can seem quite overwhelming because there are so many extracurricular activities, and people like Lucia and myself were involved in lots of them. But some people just have one that they do for a couple of hours a week. And if you decide to do that and halfway through the year you think, I need to stop doing this because I need to focus on my studies, that's absolutely fine. Lots of the societies are free of charge, and lots of them are maybe £5 or £10 to join. So if you join and you realise I can't attend this every week, you can just stop going, and that might be what you need to do to focus on your studies. But I'd point out that lots of postgraduate students do manage to balance it, and some of these things you can just attend for an hour or even half an hour a week. But yeah, everybody at the uni, everybody participating in these societies near enough is a student. So there'll be lots of people in the same boat, and they will understand if you can't commit as much as you thought, or if you have to take time off to focus on your studies.
And there's no pressure to go to all the committee events within the certain committee. You can drop in and pick and choose any events which you go to. So there's no pressure. If you want to be involved with society and do 7 hours a week or just do half an hour, you can completely choose, and there is no pressure anywhere.
Well, thank you all for your questions. We do have some more, but as I mentioned, we will be answering them most likely individually because we are running to the end of our webinar. We hope you found our answers useful, and thank you, Daisy and Lucia, for joining the webinar, for presenting and providing really useful answers. This session has been recorded, so you will receive a follow-up email that will have a link to the recording in case you would like to watch it again or share with your friends. In the same email, you will receive our contact details. So if you have any further questions, please do get in touch, just email us. And again, in the same email, you will receive a link to a short survey. We would really appreciate if you could give us your feedback on whether you found the webinar useful, and also what else, other types of information you would like to receive in the future as part of this webinar. So we thank each and every one of you for tuning into our session, which hopefully you found interesting and useful. And we wish you all the best and look forward to seeing as many of you as possible here in the University of Reading in the near future. So with your permission, we're going to conclude the webinar and end the session.
Thank you for listening,
Thank you.
guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.